Hello there. Have you ever heard of coincidences? Well, I'm sure you probably have. Unless you're really young, perhaps. In which case, I should explain that a coincidence is something that happens that just seems to be the right time for it to happen, without any planning or effort from you or anybody that you're aware of. Um, so, say for example, uh, just a little while ago, my alarm went off to remind me that I needed to take my medicine for my allergies. And within less than 30 seconds, my alarm went off to remind me that it was time to take my laundry out of the dryer. Within 1 minute, I had two different alarms going off. That's a coincidence. Is it significant? Well, you'll probably agree with me when I say no. However, people tend to ascribe importance to coincidences under some circumstances and not under others. So, say for example, you are hanging out with your friends, and by coincidence, somebody that you were thinking about that day calls you up. Now, this person may have been somebody that you haven't talked to for a long time, or may have been somebody that you talked to the other day. But the fact that you were thinking about that person on that day and they called you on that day is a coincidence. And you may think, oh, wow, that person must have been reading my mind. Or I sent my psychic message and the person received it. But if you think about it, how many times over the past 30 days or 60 days or 90 days did you think about that person? So what were the odds actually that you would actually get a phone call on the same day that you thought about that person? If you got the phone call right when you were thinking about that person and you hadn't thought about that person all day long, and but only at that specific time, that might be a little more significant. Now, an example of a completely non-significant type of coincidence that we ignore constantly and don't usually give any special notice to is if you're driving and you get a green light. You don't notice that. In fact, you don't notice when you get red lights unless you're in a rush and you really didn't want it to turn red. We all know how that feels, right? It's frustrating because you wanted to go and you can't go because the red light makes you stop. But if you go through light after light after light, you don't notice it usually, unless something is going on that makes it significant to you that the lights are green. I mean, you could go through the same set of lights at the same time of day 1,000 times and only notice it when it means something. Like, for example, if you're trying to get to the hospital because somebody you love is in the hospital, and you go through the same set of lights you've always gone through, and as always, you get green lights, you'll be like, oh, God must be helping me get to the hospital faster. No, it's the same darned lights as always. You're just in a rush, you're excited, you're scared, whatever. Maybe you're going to have a baby, maybe somebody's very ill, but you have connected things that are not actually connected. This is called a correlation. A correlation is when you have two events that may or may not be related to each other, but happen at the same time or one after the other. To say that a correlation means that one caused the other or that there's a direct connection between the two events, however, is false logic. And we go through our lives in certain events that happen. We look at those and say, oh, God must have wanted that to happen. Or it must be because of some kind of a psychic connection. You're my kindred spirit. You're my soulmate. When in reality, if you look at least one of the two parts of the event that occurred, the coincidence that occurred, you'll realize that this thing happens many times. So the likelihood of there being any real significance is usually very, very low. Yet we insist, oh, I was walking along and I saw the number 21 a lot. Well, you may have just played blackjack, and so your mind is stuck on the number 21, and so you see 21 everywhere. Or you may have had a conversation with a cousin of yours who's had her 7th baby, and you keep on seeing 7 everywhere. That's called priming. And priming is when something has come to your attention, and because your mind has been focused onto that thing, you tend to notice that thing and under other circumstances, in other places at other times, because of that. In fact, some stage magicians will use priming to make sure that they get the answer from the audience that they want. Darren Brown in England is very famous for doing that, and he's demonstrated it many times. There are a whole range of other coincidences that have no relationship. The events have no relationship between them. Generally speaking, or they may be related, but not in the way that you've decided you believe they're related. So, all I'm asking you to do here is to think clearly and carefully and differentiate between when a coincidence has some kind of significance, which may be that somebody may be playing a trick on you, and when it's just that, it's a correlative effect, it's priming something else that is not some kind of divine power or psychic power or anything like that. Because if you run around constantly thinking, oh, well, God and my psychic abilities in this, when in fact you're just grasping at straws, so to speak, or it makes you feel good to believe that these things happened for a reason when they didn't happen for a reason. It really kind of leads you down a path that can set you up for disappointment. It also is, fantasy thought. I mean, it's wishful thinking. It's magical thinking, if you will. And sometimes that kind of thinking can cause you to make decisions that end up hurting you. Say, for example, you are really primed to receive a number from God that will be the number that will allow you to win the lottery, the big lottery, millions of dollars. And so you're walking around in a state and you see the same number over and over and over again. And there are any number of reasons why you're seeing it. It could be related to the day of the week. It could be related to the date. It could be related to where you're located, where you're going, part of town, for example. It could be related to certain other factors. It could just be because you've been primed subconsciously to look for that number somehow or other. Not necessarily deliberately primed by somebody, but something primed you into looking for that number. And then you decide, okay, that's the number. I keep on seeing. I saw the number 72 about 50 million times today. I'm going to take all my savings out and I'm going to invest that savings into the lottery because I'm going to win big today. Now, if we look at how much money you have in your bank account and you have, say, $20,000, and you spend that $20,000 on buying as many lottery tickets as you can get. So you run from gas station to mini market to supermarket and so on, buying up all of the lottery tickets, or you go online and you buy them there. And you've then got X number of lottery tickets. It could be that you've got 50-cent tickets, your dollar tickets, $2 tickets, $5 tickets, $10 tickets, $20 tickets, whatever they are. So divide that into the 20,000 or however much you have in your bank account. The bigger the result, the greater your chances of actually winning significant amounts of money. But at the same time, you also have a risk of not winning significant amounts or not winning anything. In fact, you could end up losing more than you earn, even though you win. Now, I'm not saying that you should be running around looking for numbers that are coming from God or whatever. I'm not saying that you should spend all your money on the lottery. I don't think it's a wise decision, because if you look at the statistics on the likelihood of you winning, they're pretty low. And the only way you can really improve those numbers is by, number one, regularly buying tickets for your whole life. You're eventually going to win money. I mean, it's the odds are in your favor that eventually you're going to win at least a small amount of money. But winning the $1 million jackpot or the $50 million jackpot or whatever it happens to be, the numbers are still going to be tiny even if you spend your whole life trying to win that lottery. But running around looking for a sign from God could cause you to spend your money and end up in serious financial trouble. So please be careful when you're making decisions. Coincidences are not a good way to make your decisions, and if somebody unscrupulous happens to know that you are doing this, that you make your decisions based on coincidences, they will manufacture coincidences that lead you in a certain direction that will benefit that person, which is another way of saying that you'll get conned because they are manipulating you. And you may think, oh, that'll never happen. I don't know anybody that would do something like that. But here's the truth. The truth is the vast majority of people who are psychopaths are never going to tell you that they're a psychopath. I've never had anybody tell me that they're a psychopath. I have one guy that I know, and I've known him since he was a teenager and I was in my late 20s. He claims he may have Asperger's, but some tests indicate that he may possibly be psychopathic. But, most people don't react well to psychopaths saying, oh, I'm a psychopath. So most psychopaths don't say it because it carries a lot of risk for them. Anyways, I digress from the actual topic. So coincidences are almost always going to be just that. Just events that are unrelated or not related in the way that you hope they're related. And you're connecting them not because of logic, but because of wishful thinking. I know this is hard for some of you, and I apologize. I had this happen to me too, and I've been ripped off because of wishful thinking. So just be careful, please, and I hope that good things will happen to you. Okay? Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.